The unique properties of MOGs have already produced numerous examples of player agency, quasi-democratic activities like in-game protests and black market subversions of corporate copyright regimes, which could potentially be reproduced among child players. These examples appear to lend a lot of credence to those arguments about the potential for empowerment that might be unleashed through peer play and manipulation of licensed toys, as argued by Sara and others. To date, however, very few MOGs have allowed players under the age of 13. The notable exception until very recently was Disney's Toontown, which continues to lead in this category. There are numerous ethical issues and complications involved in dealing with child audiences online. Compliance to COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, concerns about online predators, cyberbullying, are all issues that child-oriented websites have to address, and it may be why some game designers have tended to stay away from making MOGs for kids, or at least from opening them up to child participants. The emerging interest in MOGs expressed by the children's television and toy industries thus intrigues me for a number of reasons, and I'm particularly concerned with whether these ethical issues could ever be resolved within a commercial context, especially given the history of children's television and the commodification of childhood. So I've been studying these virtual worlds and MOGs for children for the past year, and I've been contrasting them with what I already know about MOGs that are designed for adults and teens. And the reason that I'm doing that primarily is to see how the technology and the conventions that were first established in these earlier games are being changed, altered, maybe built upon when games are designed for kids. The most striking feature in all the cases of branded, child-oriented virtual worlds and MOGs I've examined to date is the highly promotional nature of their content. Unlike teen and adult-oriented MOGs, these kids' MOGs are offered free of charge, aka supported by ads. Ads are featured throughout many of the games as clickable banner ads that surround the game application window, as video clips that run while the games are loading, and as areas and images integrate directly into the game environments. The most important and prevalent form of advertising is intertextual self-promotion. For example, in Nicktropolis, several areas feature virtual screens that play trailers of Nickelodeon television programs, and I highly, highly doubt that the players of Lord of the Rings Online, a game for teens and adults, would ever withstand watching clips for ads for DVDs, interrupting their gameplay. In addition, the game environment includes a number of branded areas where child players can interact inside theme rooms or purchase, using in-game currency, items based on Nickelodeon cartoons, as seen here in the SpongeBob SquarePants shop. In many cases, gameplay and promotional features are seamlessly integrated, making it incredibly difficult to distinguish content for advertising, not just for children, but I think for anyone who would watch or play these games. Television-based games often feature missions that reproduce episode storylines. Talk about scripting play. Meanwhile, special codes that open up exclusive in-game items are aired during new episodes of the show, creating a loop between the digital and the traditional media. This loop is even more explicit within toy-based games like WebKids and B-Brats, which not only require purchase of a real-world product in order to play the game online, but continuously refer the player back to new toy lines and accessories, perpetuating an endless cycle of consumption. Along with the push towards intertextual consumption, virtual worlds for kids display a strong internal faith in the capitalist ethos, promoting what David Buckingham calls a pedagogy of consumption. Each of these games revolves more or less around an economic system, where points or currency are won or earned by the players, and then exchanged for virtual items of some sort. And in some of these games, this is pretty much the only activity that's available. In most games, virtual consumerism revolves around either improving or adorning one's virtual self or avatar, and/or improving and adorning one's virtual bedroom. The avatar as commodity and locus of consumer desire is particularly apparent within games aimed specifically at young girls. Building upon the virtual paper dolls trend, games like Barbie Girls, Disney's Fairies, and B-Brats place a huge emphasis on looks, clothing, and accessories. Since its launch, Disney Fairies has offered little other than the opportunity to create fairies by customizing their features and clothing. On the other hand, the virtual bedroom can be likened back to children's real-world bedroom culture, if not the key site of children's conspicuous consumption. It's very unlikely that this is a coincidence. An important way in which corporate control is achieved in these games is through the heavy restrictions placed on interplayer communication. Now, this is a tricky area because The reality is that kids' sites do have to respond to a growing panic and concerns around sexual predators using ICTs to approach minors, not to mention concurrent fears around cyberbullying and privacy issues, including the COPPA compliance that I already mentioned. But while some of these sites, such as Club Penguin and Barbie Girls, are attempting to address these issues through strict moderation of chat and their forums and ongoing monitoring of user interactions, the majority have elected to place a much more significant limitation on interplayer communications. For example, in both Nicktropolis and YTV's Galaxies, communication between players is limited to a sort of bricolage, where players must select sentences from scroll-down menus of predetermined chat options. While Nicktropolis allows for a more involved form of dictionary chat with parental permission, the more commonly used form of communication is a scroll-down system limited to 634 pre-constructed sentences. Now, in the name of safety, this might appear necessary, but 237 of those pre-constructed sentences just happen to contain explicit references to Nickelodeon properties, including references to TV programs, films, and media-branded areas. As you might expect, all of them refer to these properties in more than glowing terms. The politics of how and what is included in these sites' chat options is an issue worthy of a paper all of its own, I think. It's clear, however, that such limited player interaction diminishes and perhaps even eliminates the opportunities for collaboration and community building that are supposed to be such an important part of MOGs and Web 2.0 and user-generated content. What is of particular interest to me is how notions of safety are being used to replace opportunities for agency with opportunities for more marketing. Legitimate concerns, as well as media-fueled fears, are being tapped into, but the only solution being provided to parents and children is enhanced commercialization. In addition to the chat examples above, a number of games are now using safety concerns as a way to promote viral marketing, limiting in-game communication to real-life friends, but of course only those who buy the necessary products. Which brings me to some of kids' shifting roles as contributors and players within primarily commercial spaces. Because even though kids' participation in these sites is being controlled and limited, it's by no means removed altogether. But in restricting interplayer communication to corporate-approved or even corporate-branded speech, each player becomes first and foremost a brand champion, conforming to the standards established by the game's rules and parameters, and defined to accord with a particular corporate vision, reenacting these standards for and with other players. Concurrently, market research remains a big component of the virtual world's business model. Points are awarded for completing surveys, communication between players are recorded and directed towards commercially relevant topics. Meanwhile, children's contribution to the games, including user-generated content and what forms of creativity are allowed, are almost always co-opted and copyrighted by the site owners.